Until those jobs are created, people will not earn money. If they don't earn money, things become difficult. Granted, price may be high, but this is not unique. I mean, I don't want to get back. Everybody don't talk about everybody. When I say no, we're not saying on television. It's a global issue all over the place. That's not enough excuse. The fact remains, we as a government will be steadfast to make sure the impact is not realized. It might have been worse under other governments.
But no, look at the current situation. Is we discard this global hunger index, or maybe it's
no, I didn't tell you that,
calculated.
Sir. I don't tell you that.
No, look at the current situation. What in government, with all the policies standing or the implementations them we government don't do, the situation still continue. What in government they do for improve this living condition of the people? For the ordinary man, you go market today, if not 10,000 buy something tomorrow, it go be 15,000.
No, it's not correct. Well, I don't go market yesterday, today I come. That one of the use their statistics and it's not like that. I can challenge you now, go market today, more keep for 1 week, let's see whether it increase. So
prices
they increase, but not like you go market today, tomorrow you go back and increase. You understand? It's not the increase, that way they talk. So our price of goods have been some price of goods that they do within a range. There's high inflation. I'm not going to say there's no high inflation, but there's high inflation. But this government is trying as best as we can to keep the prices stable, and eventually to reduce it and to keep the inflation down. And that is a pledge again in this manifesto. But I don't want us to reduce development to macroeconomics. That should be a grave mistake we can do as a country. A grave mistake. It's like telling me the human capital is not important. It's like telling me energy is not important. It's like telling me other things are not important. There's a lot of commitment in this manifesto. Where you get, I wish you would get time for reader. If you go to the economic chapter, you get able to read them, and everybody get able to understand. You see, so please, not that they are not important, but allow me to probably come in. You could call the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor later on if you want to get into economics. Like I tell you about education, I don't want to go into the details of it. Let me deal with overall. Right. What has President Bill promised to do for this country?
Okay. Well, if you listen to the program, you listen to Good Morning Salone, where they come to you from 98.1 FM. And the program this morning, we get Jacob Jusu Saffa there this morning for talk about the manifesto where President just launched as we go into elections. Well, the time from the studio clock now 1 minute after 8. We still they come over to you, Mr. Minister, and also Chairman for the Manifesto Committee. Now, in this new manifesto, the Salone People's Party leadership go Punado over the weekend. Then get to now called the Big Five, when one feed Salone, human capital development, youth employment scheme, on a call yes, revamping the public service architecture, and also the tech and infrastructure. Big words for Sierra Leoneans team. Now let we take one after the other. Or before we take one after the other, let we look at why when I think say this what we call the Big Five, now the problem of Sierra Leone.
Well, we don't think that the problem of Sierra Leone, that the priorities we want set to Sierra Leone. There are several problems with Sierra Leone. But we decide to even among those more prioritize. One of the experiences we'll come everywhere was funny, but now we don't get some base. So we decide to more prioritize. We choose for number one, feed Salone. Because I believe say most of what people are calling bread and butter is because there's no food. And believe me, if we don't address food problem, we keep talking about price rises. And interestingly, this price rise is more of an urban phenomenon. Because we know they produce food in a free ton, we buy everything. That make we keep grumbling about price rises. In typical rural area, because they produce, they are a little bit better when it comes to food production. That I know that they have said. We've traveled widely, they give us food where we can go there. Remember, we spend over $250 million yearly for import food, rice. That import rice, it creates a situation which will balance of trade, it affects the balance of trade. When the balance of trade is affected, that they create a situation where they call the depreciation of the currency itself. Because what it means, therefore, when they import more than what we export. What you need for improve your exchange rate is to export more than what you import. So for reduce your import bill as a government, the first thing you have to do is to produce rice in this country. When you will get rice enough, that will improve the currency itself and that will affect prices positively. That quite apart from that, this is a sure way of reducing poverty. Over 50% of the poverty in this country is as a result of food poverty. If I full inflation, the moment you go up, it affect the entire inflation basket. So we believe, say, one way to address the cost of living problem, one way to increase school attendance, one way to increase healthcare delivery services, one way to take care of this nation, and one way to increase the macroeconomy, to improve the macroeconomy, is food production.
All right.
That is why we, as a government, don't put food production as number one.
One way where you don't talk for reduce poverty in this country and for less alone able for feeding self. Not a secret, say lots of resources don't go into agriculture in the past, and more continue for going to it. For let we able for feed we self inside the next 5 years, where now the government is number one priority. How you think say una go for do am?
But first of all, just by way of when we say we do something as a flagship, you now turn education around. How would you turn education around? This is going to be very close to the president. We not the only increase resource allocation, the entire ministry will be restructured in a proper way. The quite apart from that, we increase the private sector participation in it. We're going to establish what they call a farmer service center for input supply, with the modernized extension services, with the do innovation extension services, with the get homegrown school feeding programs as well, food production. With the aggressively, with the effectively coordinate the donor assistance and the NGO support to the sector. The relevant policy, the legal framework will be addressed. And we need to only talk about rice, we talk about non-rice commodities. Salone, and we even need to do public education so that we reduce our reliance on rice and look for other food crop commodities. Yam then day, banana day, other things then day. But apart from that, we also make sure say we provide credit facilities, because that's one of the major problems of production in this country is lack of credit facility. Special credit options or credit facilities will be created for people. It is going to be a part of a presidential priority, and it will receive the highest level of support. It's not going to be things as usual. And we don't find out say this is something within 2 years. Even our current records, we improve self-sufficiency in food production about 50% to 75%. So small injection what we do for the past 2 years, we're able to improve on those figures. So we don't get a clear idea of this, that within the next 2 years or 3 years, we'll be very sure that, except possibly why it's imported rice, but we have enough rice here to eat, to consume.
So now, let me look at the education sector.
You want me go back by education?
We need to go to the. We are still on agriculture.
We
look at the agriculture, not education. To go to the education sector. Already they receive 22% of the country GDP. Now agriculture don't come as priority. How the agriculture they receive support in terms of the GDP or the money where they allocate to them, and then two issues are what will be the status of the education and the agriculture as flagship programs.
Well, maybe let's use this opportunity for correct one public mistake. It's not a percentage of GDP, not correct. Now, percentage of the domestic budget. 22% of the domestic budget is allocated to the education sector. That's one. Then agriculture with the gap of 4 or 5%, we can increase to 10% in line with the Maputo Accord. But it's not more of the resource allocation than the restructuring and the rearrangement within the sector. Remember, the agricultural sector is one sector. We don't talk so with good to a lot of private sector capital into it. It's not government that's going to be producing rice, but rather government creating the enabling environment for rice production.
The big 5-1, you don't talk about feed Salone and how we plan for do that. You say Leone and Segi, the Salone People's Party, and other mandates. The number 2, when I say human capital development, where we don't hear about in the past, but in this one, when I put nurturing skills for 21st century industry. I mean, this is big for me. People the way they up there. I go explain what you mean by nurturing skills for 21st century under the number 2 human capital development.
Now, digital education really we talk about here in this case. I mean, for they operate in the 24th century, you don't want to operate like a 1961-year-old man or somebody born 1961 or what they call. You got to definitely develop the digital experience, skills of people. So what we try for the modern education, when they give people then, will they able to compete? The world is so competitive these days. If you believe, say, you don't get a PhD degree in 1961 or what have you, therefore you have all the experience in the world, you are making a big mistake. You may have a very young 26-year-old boy who don't get a PhD from Harvard, who get good experience, pass you. So you got to definitely make sure that you get you provide skills for meet up the job market. We live in an industrial revolution. So that's what we are talking about. The things that we've done in the area of human capital, we have to consolidate them. That's why the theme of the manifesto, consolidating the gains and accelerating transformation. We can't leave those good things. We have to consolidate them. We've got the education now. We have to implement it. We have to improve on that. We have to improve on social protections. And